the cat's out the bag. I mean, this is a great place and people want to live here. There's 1,550 homes in active developments in the city of Carencro right now. And that requires infrastructure. And that's what we're working on, is that infrastructure to get the people where they have to go, and the water, sewer, gas, all of those different things that they have to have.
So you see yourself as a steward of this growth.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that when we invest in something, we're investing in something that's going to last for a long time. That it's done right, and 50 years from now, somebody's going, what, that crazy woman did that. I want it to be like, oh, this was, I'm glad she thought of doing this extra little thing for my children and my grandchildren, who I hope live in Carencro just like I did.
You're listening to Fueled, a Fenstermaker podcast, and I'm your host, Catherine Fenstermaker.
Today on Fueled, I'm speaking with Mayor Charlotte Stemmans Clavier.
Yes, ma'am.
A woman of grit, candor, and conviction. A lifelong resident of Carencro, a mother, a businesswoman, and now the 8th mayor in the city's history.
Yes, ma'am.
Charlotte brings heart and horsepower to everything she does. Since taking office in 2022, Mayor Clavier has been focused on guiding Carencro through an era of intense growth. She stepped in with boldness, launching Carencro 2.0, the city's first comprehensive plan, an ambitious, community-driven roadmap for the future. But what drives her isn't just policy, it's people. And today, we'll explore both the infrastructure underfoot and the personal foundation beneath the title. So welcome, Charlotte.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. That sounds wonderful.
Thank you for agreeing to talk with us today and break down some of the walls, if you will, and get to know you.
Yes.
The amazing woman that you are.
Well, thank you so much.
Our season is concrete and character. So we'll dive into part 1 of concrete, Charlotte.
Okay, lots of concrete. We have lots of projects going on.
The infrastructure of vision. So, Mayor Clavier, you've called Carencro a city on the grow, and your administration wasted no time getting to work. What were the first signs that a comprehensive plan was needed, and how did you decide to act on that need?
So one of the things I campaigned on was it didn't really matter what I wanted. It mattered what the people wanted.
Right.
Because that's really what government should be. It's, I don't tell them what they want. They tell me what they want, and I need to go about doing it.
Right.
So early on, we had a kind of little visioning session at the community center before I took office, and invited people from the public to come in, and they came in with all of these things they needed to do. And I realized that, ooh, this isn't something I could just make up by myself. You have to understand, I was mayor pro temp 25 years ago. So things like that were easy because it was a smaller town. Everything was so much smaller. It was much more manageable. And I realized that this is over my head. So it's like, okay, we need to do a true master plan. I went and saw what they did in Scott. I thought that was absolutely amazing. So it's like, okay, I want one like that. So we had to get the financing for it. We got that through the first session, and then that's when we started the process. So I'm excited about what came out of it. I was thrilled to see how many people participated, because I believe we had more than anybody else. Of course, Carencro has more than anybody else. We had lots of participation. We had some wonderful people on steering committees. We had a lot of stakeholder meetings. So it was really good all the way around. And so I'm excited about what came out of it. I'm excited about now. It's we're have hired someone to come in and do our planning, who will also be our master plan administrator, and she starts in a week, and I'm really excited about that.
What an exciting role.
I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about everything kind of moving forward. We just Carencro's the fastest growing community in Lafayette Parish.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand we're the fastest growing community in Louisiana. We're growing fast, but we have to keep up with the infrastructure to grow. And
right.
I think that the flavor of Carencro, the vibe of Carencro, the heart of Carencro are really great people. And so as new people are moving in, they're moving in because there's the amenities and those kinds of things, but they're also moving in because they're getting to know some really great people. And they're wanting to become part of what the special sauce is in Carencro. So I think it's exciting.
Yes.
And please know, this is not me that made that up. This has been going on for a long time.
Right.
This is not new.
Years in the making.
This is years and years in the making, and lots of people before me who were very much community driven. And so I'm happy to just be another one in that long line.
So talk to me, you mentioned you were mayor pro tem.
Yes.
For those who don't know what that means, tell me, what was that role?
Carencro was organized under the Larson Act in 1905. And the Larson Act has a city council, a board of aldermen. That was a whole other thing. I ran for alderman. They wanted me to be an alderwoman. And I said, no, that did not sound good. I wasn't doing that. So
Is that akin to a police jury?
kind of, sort of, but this is on the city level.
On the city level. Okay.
And so now in Carencro, it's called the city council.
Okay.
And so the tradition in Carencro has always been we all vote at large. We all run at large for the city council.
Okay.
So the one that gets the most votes is generally considered mayor pro tem. That's always kind of been the tradition.
Okay.
And so I was the mayor pro tem because I got the most votes.
So you had a history of being an elected.
Yes. So I ran for city council and I was mayor pro temp. And then I did run for state representative against a wonderful lady, Miss Clara Baudouin. We just had different visions, but I mean, absolutely wonderful lady.
Okay.
We hugged every time we saw each other. It was a really clean, wonderful election. And
Right.
then I had another baby and I was out.
Right.
I just more kids and then that was it.
Right.
And
Took a break.
I was busy, raising children. And then I ran again for mayor. Well, I ran for city parish council, and then I ran for mayor, and then I ran again for mayor.
So this history of this political aspiration, this runs deep. This runs deep through.
I won't call it political aspiration. I like the work. I don't know that I'm not really good at telling people what they want to hear. So I'm really not a good politician. I like the work. I like being a public servant.
Yeah.
I like that part of it. To say I go to a grocery store and people need to know who I am, absolutely not. I never tell people who I am. If they know who I am, it's fine. But I don't do it for that. I do it because I like the work.
Okay. Not necessarily the fame or the recognition.
I don't need any of that. I would prefer to almost take a back seat, let somebody else stand up front. But that's not how this works.
Right.
It's part of the deal. You have to take it. But I love what I'm doing. I have the best job in the world.
I've been saying that in my own life of, a time to sow, a time to reap. And this being a time of sowing and really striving to find joy in the work of sewing.
I ran a family business for a long time, and it was perfect for raising children because when my kids were sick, they either came to work with me, I brought my work home. I just worked it out.
Yeah.
And so it was perfect for the raising children.
Right.
But now that my kids are grown, this is my dream job. I love this.
You're able to spread your wings and rise to your...
come up with crazy stuff, and we're doing some really advanced things in the city of Carencro. And I'm not that creative, but I'm very blessed to have a lot of people around me who are, and it's really good to see it moving through the process.
So the Carencro 2.0 plan was shaped, as you mentioned, by robust public outreach, surveys, stakeholder conversations, community feedback sessions. What did your residents teach you during that process, and how did their input shape what's now on paper?
I know that in order for us to meet the requirements that are put upon a community, okay, to meet those requirements, it requires infrastructure to be at certain standards. Okay. And they cost a lot of money. And that is where a whole lot of the resources of this city are going.
Okay.
but the community wants those amenities.
Okay.
And luckily, with volunteers, with other people in the community, we have been able to collaborate with them and give the city those amenities that don't have a huge price tag, because I need to spend the money on infrastructure, if that makes any sense. But I really value the fact that people want those amenities.
Give me an example of an amenity.
Okay, so we have the cultural district. We do a big event. We do Easter, we do Halloween, and we do Christmas. Huge events in the community, very well received, thousands of people here, great events. People want parks. They want those kinds of things. They want to be able to walk around and enjoy that community. And, we've resurfaced the tennis court and the basketball court. We've done those kinds of things. But what I'm spending the money on is sewer and water and roads and those kinds of things that nobody sees.
Right.
Sewer is the least sexy thing in the world, and that we will this summer probably, if all goes well, go out to bid for the biggest project the city of Carencro will ever do, and it's in excess of $50 million.
And this is wastewater.
Wastewater, sewer, and in all honesty, I don't want to know much about sewer other than when I flush, it goes away and it does not return.
Correct.
And that do not return is very expensive.
Right. Of course.
It's very expensive. And I know it sounds silly, but that it really is.
It's the underpinning.
This is what we have to have.
Right.
It's
the underpinnings of
of the
modern
whole
civilization.
Thing of modern civilization is
right.
that it's dealt with correctly.
So does that trouble you, I guess, that your pocketbook is being drained by the less sexy things, whereas, maybe you want to spend more money.
That's the challenge. So it is to do as many things as we can so that people have a good quality of life. And we trying to do those for maybe on a budget, if that makes any sense, But
right.
I'm generally I don't say I'm conservative. I say that I'm cheap. I coupon, My kids eat what's on sale. Whatever, I'll cook every Sunday, but we're going to shop on the sale paper. That's what, I just don't decide to cook hamburger. That's what's on sale. That's what we have.
Right. It's a mentality.
It's a mentality. So we're trying to do it for a reasonable amount of price. We bring work in-house that can be done in-house. My guys have a lot of responsibility. The guys and the girls that work for the city of Carencro. I'm always asking them to do two more things. The city of Carencro has the absolutely most wonderful employees. These people that work in public works, they work in parks, they work in utilities, they work in the administration. They're always kind of up for all of my crazy. It seems like sometimes, because some of the stuff I am a little crazy.
Yeah. Well, you can get that away.
I want more, and
right.
Just today we're getting ready to open the new concession stand at Pelican Park. It's a big deal. We're getting ready we spent a lot of money. It burnt.
Wow.
It took forever to get the plans right. We finally got a set of plans. It's
okay.
going to be absolutely wonderful. So we're working on this concession stand. Well, I go to a baseball field and I don't want something hot. I want something cool. Okay.
Right.
So I'm like, well, we need to have a cooler that has all the cool things, that you could buy, fruit or, different things like that. Well, today we had our park meeting and one of the girls, one of our supervisors, Michelle, she took on the challenge and she went and got all the different things and put it together and figured out how many of each she could make and how much the cost was. And like, it's perfect. That's exactly what we need. She went above and beyond and figured it out and, ordered the containers and got the food and put it together and then brought samples and we're like, ooh, this is really good. It's that teamwork. It's the, we have wonderful people that work for the city of Carencro and it's great to see them strive for those things that we want to do,
Right.
I know I want the cool food, but she really came across with it. And that was just this morning,
And you need people to be foot soldiers for a larger vision.
They have ownership of what we're doing,
Yeah.
The other thing is that we do it so that the departments all kind of work together. So there's no reason to have, just as an example, a trailer that's only for public works. If they need a trailer at the park, well, then they use that trailer because the city already owns one. Everybody needs to kind of work together, and we
right.
did, and it works.
And harmonize,
and it works. It's they've gotten to know each other. It's It's good.
So you have these beautiful people that work for the city. You have an amazing community that's supportive and has contributed largely to the vision. Was there anything in that process where people were showing up where they shocked you with something, or do you feel like you really knew the heart of the community going into that planning?
You always will have people who are negative or whatever.
Okay.
But my way of handling that is probably something I learned in business, is that when somebody has that strong of a conviction about something, there's something behind it. So we need to listen to what they're saying and figure out what it is. And a lot of times I just ask for help. I'm like, oh, really? You see that? What do you think we should do? And I'm not a very creative person. That's not my nature, but I'm good at getting stuff done. So if somebody has a great idea, I really, have probably about between 25 and 30 people in the community who they're those people that keep their yard immaculate. But if they see something out of place, I'm going to get a phone call. I'm going to get a text message. I'm going to get an email. I'm going to get a phone call or something, a picture. This doesn't look right. It needs to be addressed. We're going to get on it. We do. And I don't think of that as a complaint and a negative. I think of that as, you helped me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
They're your
And
eyes.
they're my eyes, because I don't see everything. I mean, that's not my,
Can't.
that you can't. Nobody can. And so I think that the more we embrace that and bring it in, I think the better things are, because they're the eyes and ears of this community, and
Right.
they see what we need to do, and that's good.
I love that. It's a good attitude toward it.
Well, I mean,
It's the right attitude toward it.
it is. I mean, I think that's the way it should be. I think that's the way government should be.
Right.
I don't know how other people do it, but that's how I think we're going to do it. So that's what we're doing here.
It feels good in Carencro.
I like it.
Infrastructure, as you mentioned, may not always be flashy, but it is fundamental. Carencro is preparing to bid out a new wastewater treatment plant this summer,
Yes.
undertaking citywide replacements for both sewer and gas systems,
And water. We're still working on water.
and pursuing a major federal grant through the Safe Streets for All program to realign a key corridor and install 2 roundabouts at Gloria Switch.
Right. So that's the dog leg on Gloria Switch. So if all goes well, there would be a roundabout at Louis Arsenault and Gloria Switch, that area. The Gloria Switch would continue down Lumina. It's a small road, very rarely used road now, but down Lumina, cross over some vacant land, and then end up at Walter Drive and have another roundabout there. So it would straighten the dog leg on Gloria Switch. And for people who travel that area, they know exactly what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
The 18-wheelers are always in the ditch. There's just a lot of problems with it. A lot of problems came to light during the freeze because the trees are overhanging there, and it's beautiful, but the trees overhang, so it stayed cool and no sun hit it, and so it stayed with a lot of ice in that area. And watching 18-wheelers slipping and sliding was kind of scary.
Absolutely. So for safety, obviously.
It's a safety
and,
thing.
And
It's a safety
upgrades
thing. At one time, that was a rural highway, and the fact that it made a dog leg didn't matter. And now, Lafayette, I mean, we're in the middle of everything. We're growing fast. And so I think it's just a necessity.
So all these big wheels turning, how do you lead through the kind of behind-the-scenes coordination, technical planning that the public rarely sees, but that is essential to the city's future?
It's all relationships. It's all talking to people. It's all making the connection with who you need to talk to get something done. And it's all relationships. It's all people. Luckily, we have great people that work for the city. We have great consultants. We have and great other elected people, because I'm not afraid to ask for help.
Right.
I appreciate all the help I can get.
Of course.
And so,
we need
the
support.
phone a friend deal happens often.
Yeah.
I'll phone somebody I know, and they're like, oh, well, I know so-and-so, maybe they can help you. And we go that way.
So you don't ever have a fear of being like unequipped per se with certain knowledge about a technicality. Let's say, I mean, you're managing, this is transportation infrastructure, this is water sewer. These are complex technical things. So you're leaning on your people. And how about your own understanding? What's your approach toward deepening your understanding of these like technical, very technical sectors?
I read a lot. I learn a lot. It's funny. When the sewer plant deal, when I first was elected, I was told I had to do XYZ, and I'm like, I don't think you know me. I don't just do what you tell me to do. I spent 100 hours learning about sewer. Um, Before I took office, between the election and when I took office, I spent 100 hours on sewer.
Right.
And I picked everybody's brains and tried to learn as much as I could. And, I tried to get the high points on a lot of this stuff. I'm probably not real good with the intimate details of everything, but I try to get the high points, and I try to find somebody that knows a lot about that particular thing that I have a connection to, and I'll make a phone call, and then I try to spend time with them, and then a lot of times, I'll bring in somebody who, a great example is Brian Tabor, that's on the parish council here in Lafayette.
Okay.
The sewer plant, "Hey, come look at this plans." He goes, "Charlotte, I'm a plumber. I don't do that." I said, "Yeah, but you know more than me.
Right.
So come look at this.
Look at it
I
together.
need you to look at this." And I will get people who know about that, and please, can you help? Can I get you to look at the plans? I've never been told no.
So always just approaching things with a deep curiosity and
Curious and want to know.
wanting to learn
Right.
and wanting to make sure that you're making the
Right.
right decision
Correct.
for the city.
And there's 1,000 decisions a week that are made when you're the mayor.
Right.
And they could go any kind of way. And I, I try to get as much input as possible when I'm doing it. And then sometimes I do it wrong and I redo it, and it's okay. I mean, only people that don't ever do nothing wrong are people that don't ever do nothing. And I probably make more mistakes than most people, but I'm doing a lot of stuff. So
Yeah,
it's okay.
it is. You're
is.
in the arena.
I'm
as they
in the
say.
middle of it.
So Carencro is also working to install new traffic signals at intersections like Ira and University and at Hector Connolly and the I-49 frontage road. When you think about those areas or about major projects like the Louisiana Avenue extension, what are you most focused on solving, not just logistically, but socially for the people of Carencro? I'm thinking about your aims for enhanced quality of life by way of safety, smoothing out people's commutes with increased speed of travel. Behind all these projects is a deeper motivation.
My grandparents didn't want people to, they kind of wanted Carencro to be a secret. Like I've always known that Carencro is an amazing community, but my grandparents really didn't need too many people to know about it. They liked people thinking we were just a little country bumpkins.
A
And
hidden gem.
yeah, we keep that a secret. And I think that there was a time that was kind of a mentality was, let's not let anybody know what we're doing. Okay. The cat's out the bag. I mean, this is a great place and people want to live here. There's 1,550 homes in active developments in the city of Carencro right now. And that requires infrastructure. And that's what we're working on, is that infrastructure to get the people where they have to go, and the water, sewer, gas, all of those different things that they have to have.
So you see yourself as a steward of this growth.
Yeah. We do it so that we have the best use of the people's money. So I want to make sure that when we invest in something, we're investing in something that's going to last for a long time. That it's done right, and 50 years from now, somebody's going, "What, that crazy woman did that." I want it to be like, "Oh, this was, I'm glad she thought of doing this extra little thing. It makes the difference down the road." So I'm hoping we do
Thinking
that.
toward the future.
Correct. For my children and my grandchildren, who I hope live in Carencro just like I did.
So you're coordinating throughout all of these projects. You're coordinating with a variety of partners, from utility providers like Slimco and AT&T to agencies like DOTD and LDH. What's it like to manage those complex partnerships, especially when they involve state or federal agencies like DOTD or LDH, while staying grounded in your vision for Carencro? And then what tends to slow progress and what helps to accelerate it?
So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of bureaucracy that goes on in any government, and so getting through that, weaving through that is sometimes a little daunting. But I mean, again, it's the challenge. If this stuff was easy, it would have already been done. If this was easy, anybody could do it.
Right.
Some of it is daunting, but it's a challenge, and that's what, you make a plan and you work through it. And at a certain point, you get somebody roadblocking you, and then you're like, oh, well, and I try to play real nice, and I am nice, but then sometimes you just have to push through and say, no, we're not doing that. You got to get out the way. I have to have this piece of paper. I have to have this whatever. And you need to get it done,
Right.
And sometimes when you deal with bureaucracy, that gets to be frustrating. I would use the word frustrating because, you expect you're promised something by X day. 3 weeks later, it's still not there. And it's like, oh, yeah, but, whatever. That's not my problem. I need you to do, because when you're in business, the fact that I had the flu isn't an excuse for not getting something done.
Right.
But when you deal with bureaucracy, sometimes that's a valid reason why it wasn't done. It doesn't matter. I need it. So let's get it done.
So you find pacing of these bureaucratic elements sometimes can be a little slower than a private industry or business, and
But
kind
that's
of
okay.
reconciling with
But
that,
I
kind of
try
understanding
hard
it,
to
but then
make-
pushing to.
But I also try hard to make relationships with the people in those groups so that at least I have somebody to go to and somebody to have a conversation with and say, look, I understand you got X, Y, and Z, but I need this. I need you to take care of it and make sure that I get it. So you're actually talking one-to-one with someone to get it done. And it's good.
And developing kind of a deeper relationship with some of these people has helped to serve your interests.
Well, and it's not my interest, it's city council.
The city's
Yeah.
interest, broadly.
Right.
Okay, so you've worked with outside consultants and firms like ours, this is Fenstermaker, on a wide range of projects. Tell me from your perspective, what makes for a productive long-term partnership?
I think personalities. I think it's just getting to know good people. And, there's some people you jive with and some people you don't. But I think that there's value in everybody, and so you have to find that piece of it that works, and then you go from there. I mean, I was in business for a long time. It's just, that's life. You just got to find that piece that works and work through it. It's all people.
It's all people.
It's all people.
You're right.
This is all people.
There's people behind every nook and cranny in
Behind
there.
every nook and cranny. You can automate a lot of things, but you can't automate everything.
So I'd love to talk to you about one of your passion projects, the Sabon Seasoning Festival. What's your long-term vision for it? How do you see events like this shaping the identity and cultural cohesion of the city, even amid the challenges that come with starting something new?
So starting something new, you get a lot of people that are like naysayers about what you want to do, and I get it, and there's 1,000 ways you can do things, and we made a plan, and we're working through the plan. I'm excited about the future of the festival, mostly because everybody else has one. But when we were looking through some economic development kind of things and looking at how does Carencro present to national companies coming in? So Carencro is a magnet, or at least was about a year ago, of approximately 55,000 shoppers a month. It's a magnet for that. Whether they live within the city limits or they live in Orneville or whatever, but they shop in Carencro, 55,000 people. But Scott was at 60. And, I love the people of Scott. My mama was from Scott. But no, we're not having that. But what do they have? We don't have festival. And so that's kind of where the conversation started, with a festival. So I brought 12 headstrong people who really didn't know each other together to start this festival. And absolutely amazing people who work themselves together. And some of them can still work together and some of them can't. But that's okay, and that's beside the point. Every one of them did everything that they did because they love this community. And I see the value of all of it, and so we're moving forward, and excited about this year's event. It's going to be Halloween weekend. I'm excited about it. I think that we have the best footprint for a festival anywhere. The North 40 of Pelican Park is huge, wide open. We have room to expand. We have room for as many vendors as we possibly could want. We could do anything because we have this space. And the festival was started, and the proceeds, once it's profitable, they'll use to improve the property where they have the festival, which belongs to the city of Carencro, and improvements to the city of the community at large, which is what Scott has done with the Boudin Festival. And I keep mentioning the Boudin Festival because the founder of the Boudin Festival was Purvis Morrison, who is our chief administrative officer. So a lot of that beginning first 5 years of the Boudin Festival, he was involved in it. He was involved in every bit of it. So there's a lot of experience that came with that. I'm excited. I think this is just a great event that just adds on to the other things we have going on in the city. We have a new organization. We have Keep Carencro Beautiful, which is partnering with the festival. So all the trash and the cleanup and stuff is going to be handled by the Keep Carencro Beautiful. And actually that organization was spun out of the festival because Danielle Caprito, who sits on the council, her and her husband kind of took it upon themselves to be in charge of all of that at the festival, kind of, stepped in and said, we're going to do this. And so they got on a golf cart and went up trash can liners and did all of this stuff. And so now this other organization has been born from the festival, and again, it's Keep Carencro Beautiful. So about a month or so ago, we did a beautiful planting in front of Carencro Park. We have a new sign that's coming in there. They planted blueberry bushes over at Pelican Park, and there's a mural over on Exit 4. Keep Carencro Beautiful. So I'm excited about it. I mean, it's just, that's an organization that was born out of the festival, which is nothing but good for the city, and if it just generates good, that's what you want. I mean, it's a great, Monsignor Broussard came in and said Mass that Sunday morning, and it was an absolutely amazing event. I still have chills. It was just a great event for the community. So it was great. We had a little weather problem, but hopefully this year, last year, the Monday morning before the festival, I'm laying in bed and there's a hurricane coming. Okay. There's a hurricane coming in November. And I'm like, Lord Jesus, please. Please don't let that hurricane come to Carencro. And it ended up just kind of looping around in the Gulf. And then he laughed at me because it just made it rain all week long. It's crazy. But anyway, it was, so I have to be very more direct in my prayers. So this year I'm going to have a very specific prayer. But anyway, I'm excited.
I love to see you light up whenever you talk about some of these simple things like the blueberry bush.
Yes.
Oh, because sometimes it's something so simple that is illuminating or exciting.
Yeah, I love that. I think things like that are great. I mean, I think, they're around our walking track, and the idea is, people can just stop and pick up berries, eat some berries. That's good. They're there,
With the detail, the detail of a beautiful community.
Right. So our summer program last year, we brought the kids to the ponds at Pelican Park for them to fish. And so now it's when I go out there and I see the kids fishing, that just makes me so happy to see a kid that's fishing and he's happy, he's enjoying himself. And
Right.
I think that's exactly what we need. That's the quality of life that everybody wants, is that, you just get to walk a track and eat a blueberry or go fishing or
smell of the roses.
Yeah. Just anything, whatever makes a person happy, we have something that would make them happy to be here. So anyway, sounds crazy.
That.
Me and my craziness.
It doesn't sound crazy. It's beautiful.
I think it is. But I think the simple things are really the important part. Having all that fancy stuff is great, but I think it's the simple things that are real.
Well, that's the day to day, you know,
Yeah.
the people that live here. You talk about a festival and driving some of the magnetism of the community to bring those thousands of people
Because
here
if
to shop
people
and things like
come for a
that.
festival, if you came from Crowley for a festival, well, great. Then you decide you're going to leave, and on the way out, you stopped at Prejean's and had dinner. Well, 3 weeks later, you say, you know, that food was good. Let's go back to Carencro. Well, they come back and they shop in Carencro. Well, that sales tax is what pays for the police officer. That's
Right.
what pays for the fire department.
Yeah.
That sales tax is what pays for it. So I know that it sounds crazy, maybe to somebody else, but to me, it's that churning, that people coming in and shopping here or eating here or spending time here. That's what churns the money that pays for the things that we have to pay for.
Right. And it enhances the quality of life for the people who are here day to day to
Right.
enjoy
Exactly.
the small things.
Yeah.
Okay, so part 2 of our interview, we're talking about character and look at the shape of a mayor. You said that you grew up on the ice chest at political meetings with your grandfather. So talk to me about what impact that early exposure to civic life, what impact that had on your own leadership path.
So my grandfather, Eddie Stemmans, was Polish juror for 32 years and 8 terms. And he was very involved in lots of things going on in the parish. And we were his grandchildren that were born when he was older. So he would bring one of us, only one because we were bad. But he would bring one of us at a time to whatever he was doing. So if he was having a meeting, we were sitting there, we had, go to the funeral home, whatever it was. And couple of times they were having these suppers at camps, okay, where they were discussing who was going to be the next I mean, this is before open meetings law. This is before all of those things, sunshine law didn't exist. And so I remember sitting there on the ice chest, and it was the old kind where there was almost like a piece of metal that would close it shut. I don't know how to explain that. You're too young. You don't even know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I remember going to the ice chest and listening to these men talking. I think, they ain't too bright. I could do that. And I think that was where it started, was that, there are real decisions that are going to affect a whole lot of people being made by people who are elected or appointed to these jobs. And, if we're not involved, if you're not involved in it, you can't affect that change or that choice. And so I wanted to do that. And it's been something I've always wanted to do.
I guess maybe that's something that we have in common of being with an influential man in our life, like my dad, going places with him, being with him in a room full of people and introducing me or in shaking hands and listening. And I think it maybe enriched my life in a way that I was never afraid of anybody.
No,
I always saw people just as
people.
and never afraid of a title
No.
that somebody had. Just coming to a place where you understand that regardless of title, regardless of position, that is a human being. And hierarchically, I think some people get caught up in being afraid of approaching someone or being afraid of getting in the mix. But it sounds to me like you had that same confidence about you.
Right, because they were there. They were regular people, and my grandfather was for his age was very educated, but he also relied on people who didn't have as much education but were skilled at what they were doing. And so a lot of times I think that's where I saw the value of that, is that there are people out there who are great at what they do, but maybe it has nothing to do with an education or a title. They were just really good at what they did. And there's this man who drove the motor grader, and his name was Birut, and Birut could build almost anything. And my grandfather talked about Birut like he was a god. And, my grandfather had a college education, and I think Birut had third, fourth, fifth grade education. But my grandfather talked about him like he was, this very, very valuable person working for the parish of Lafayette. because he could do almost anything with that motor grader.
I think there's some of a resurgence of that thought, bringing back the idea of specializing in a trade and not so much a formalized education per
Yes.
se, and leaning back into celebrating a trade.
I think that's good. I think that's what it should be. My parents made sure that all of us had an education. We all went to college, but we all were taught some kind of other skill. My brother's probably one of the best electricians you could ever find, but he works for the federal government and, is a soil scientist and he's got a job, but he knows how to do that really good. But my dad, my mom, I was 11 when I went to work, there's a confidence that's built when, you have to balance the register every day for a summer. You know what I'm saying? You have to order the merchandise in the store. That's your job. You do it. And, it doesn't matter how long it takes you because you're there all day. So take your time
Right?
and figure it out, and when you make a mistake, it's, I think that that's where my parents were great because they allowed all of us to make mistakes and you just have to fix it. Well, go fix it. It wasn't like, oh, you failed. That's not good. I mean, so when failure hits when you're older, and, in my case, it hit quite a few times. But when failure hits you, it's not final. It's this, I need to do something else. I need to figure out how I'm going to do it better and work harder toward that success. So, you see people who have never failed in their lives sometimes don't have that idea of tenacity because you didn't learn it, but my parents allowed us to fail a lot.
They say you should let your kids fail. When
Yeah.
the price tag is small, you should let
Yeah.
them fail.
And my parents did. My parents also didn't shy away from letting us see the way the world really is. We were never sheltered, that the reality of the world was right there in front of us, my parents, and then they saw nothing wrong with talking about it in front of us. That was the way the world was, and there was a reality to it. This is our way, this is our home, this is our ethics, this is how we live. But we can't put our ethics and morals on somebody else. This is us. This is what we do. But that's a reality. That's how that is.
Well, I think all of that probably lends itself to the authenticity of you that we meet today.
Well, I mean, but I don't think many people know really me and my story, and they just say, "Oh, she's the first woman mayor of Carencro. Ooh, that's a big deal." And then I get moms that are like, "Oh, I want my daughter to be just like you." And I'm thinking, Lord, don't curse your child that way. The only way I became who I am is through a whole lot of bad stuff that, we all don't wish on our children, but in the end turned out okay in me,
Yeah.
And so my kids, I've tried to allow them to have those failures, when things don't work out, figure it out, and give them their own agency to figure things out. And I'm hoping I'm teaching them right,
Well,
we all
those
try.
rough seas, they polish that glass,
Yeah.
they do.
So there are lots of rough seas, but anyway, that's beside the point.
Okay, speaking of rough seas,
Uh-huh.
in your Discover Lafayette interview with Jan Swift, you said, "Sometimes I just like to fight."
Oh, yeah.
That boldness, tempered with a deep thoughtfulness, it really makes you a compelling leader. So tell me how you discern when to stand your ground and when to find common ground.
I always try to find the common ground first. I always do. It's, I really want to make it work and I want to smooth it through because it's usually the easiest way to do it. But if you want to fight, I'll fight. I'm not scared. What you gonna do? Eat me? No, you ain't gonna do nothing. What are they gonna do about me? Nothing. That you haven't killed me yet, So at this point, I'm just gonna keep doing what I do.
You stepped into office following a long-standing administration.
Yes.
Without a traditional transition.
Yes and no. So there were a lot of things that were moving forward in the city and were given to us as these are the plans, to move forward. So there were a lot of things in active movement when we came in, and we have continued those.
Okay.
To say that somebody came in and told me what to think, no. Glenn Brosseau's a great man. He really is. He's a good man. But he also knows me, and he knows I don't really, he knows how I am. So I think that he just let me figure it out, and I think it's a good thing. In the end, I got to it gave a lot of flexibility, because I would have felt obligated, and he knows that about me. I would have felt obligated to do things the way he decided. And this way it was really, I think it was good. I think it was the best for Carencro.
He gave you the keys.
He gave me the keys. Here you go. You got it.
Drive.
You got it. Yeah, you got it. Drive. Try not to hit too many curbs.
Talk to me about those early days and how you went about establishing your own tone and your approach from day one.
I think that I'm a very collaborative person. So the first thing is that, we have a great council. I want them to figure out the pieces and they're all at large. So they're a great council, as in they all have their own things that's their kind of specialty.
Okay.
And so I thought when I came in, I need to make sure that they know everything that's going on. So I was trying to meet with them and have a checklist of everything I'm supposed to tell them, of everything I know. And then I get sworn in and I read the rules, okay, which changed over 25 years. And I can't do that. I can't send a blanket email saying these are the 17 things we're doing this week. I can't. It all has to be in public meetings. So we changed the way we have our meetings in Carencro. So what we do is we meet the second Monday of the month, 6:00, and it's called the council briefing.
Okay.
And we have an agenda, but it's all items we're going to just talk about.
Okay.
If there's a resolution, if there's some documents, we present it. We try to get that to them ahead of time, but we discuss everything going on and try to get everybody's feedback on where they are with things. And then the following Monday, we actually have the meeting where we vote on things. The original plan had to be altered because I realized I wasn't supposed to do it that way.
Right.
So, we changed around the plan and we're doing this. And a lot of communication with individual council members when it comes to certain issues. So when there's, Jordan and I spend hours together going over the budget.
Okay.
His deal is finest. Not that the others are not interested in it, but just as an example, that's that. So Taylor is an attorney. So there's a lot of legal things that I will bounce off of her.
Okay.
Antoine is very involved in things in the community, a lot of infrastructure kind of things. Alfred is into the recreation, things to do with the kids. Danielle does the Keep Carencro Beautiful. She does stuff with the summer program. So they all kind of have their own areas that they really like, and so we try to build on those strengths that happen within the council, anyway, it's just
kind of leveraging everyone's strength.
Exactly. And try to bring all that together.
It sounds like you have an interesting palette of
great people, great people. I'm proud to be part of that, because they're great.
It's nice to celebrate them and meet them where they are in what their interest is.
Yeah. And they all have become friends, because there's a lot of conversations, that happen. They work hard, they work hard for their community, and all of them love it. They love the people, they love their community. So I think everybody's coming at it from a good place.
That's a nice spot to be operating in.
Yeah, it really is. I get other people that are mayors in other places and they're like, oh God, my council's hard. And I'm like, why? What I don't understand. Why are they hard? I don't try to tell them what to think. I would never try to tell anybody what to think. But I don't try to tell them what to think. I want to know what you think so that we can make the plan, because it's really their choice what we do. It's my job is to execute their vision.
Right.
So that's the way this works, and their vision comes from the public. They're elected also. So I'm just doing what they want to do. That's executing what the plan is.
So talk to me about what part of this role has surprised you the most. Not just politically, but personally.
I don't know. I think what surprised me the most was how big Carencro was, how big the government of Carencro was, how big the city is, how, I was mayor pro tem when we were 4,000 people. Now it's 12,000 people. There's all this growth happening. There are people who live here that I've never met. It's it's just the magnitude of 3 times growth in a 20-year period, So I think that's what was the most surprising to me.
And how does that hit you in the face?
It does. It hits you in the face. First day I walked in and I'm thinking, oh, it was kind of like the thing with the master plan. I thought I could have just done it because we did something like that when I was mayor pro tem. We came in and did a pros and cons session with a group of community people to come up with some ideas of what we needed to do going forward. And we just did it. You know what I'm saying? We had somebody come in that was kind of facilitating it, but we just kind of did it. And then when I tried to do the same thing, it's like, oh, no, this is much bigger than that. I can't just make this up.
Right.
This needs to be formally done, and then doing a little research and realizing that, oh, it is a thing. And we need to do that. So now we're trying to gain funding to do a transportation master plan, a drainage master plan, and a recreation master plan.
Wonderful.
And we need all 3 of them.
Right.
We need all 3.
Yeah.
Because
Begin with the end in mind, right?
yes, exactly. So then that way you save money. It's better all the way around to just do it that way.
Yeah. You're plotting the course.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that. So you lead in both an industry and a role where women have long been underrepresented. What has that meant for you personally, publicly, and how do you stay rooted in your identity amid both scrutiny and responsibility?
So I don't know of any other way. So it's not normal for somebody else, but for me, it's completely normal. I grew up in the racehorse business. There are very few women in that business, but I was 11 when I ran in my first store. I was a young child when I started, and have stayed in that business for all these years.
It's just how you move.
And it's just part of it, and I don't know any other way. And so I guess I'm blessed that I come from that next generation of women that didn't really think of it as being unusual. I think this is what I'm supposed to do.
What is one decision you made early on that now feels pivotal? Something that it may have seemed small at the time, but changed the course of your administration or your own sense of yourself as a leader?
I would say some selections of department heads.
Okay.
I would say that Miss Lisa Mesh is our city clerk. She tirelessly works for the city of Carencro. Purvis Morrison is absolutely wonderful. He knows everything. I'd have been lost as a goose for months and years because you get these emails from the alphabet soup, and I have no idea what that stuff is. And is this real? And some of it he would send back, nope, that's a spam. And then the next one is like, oh no, that's real. We have to fill that out. It was a lot of moving parts. And because he had done all of that before, bringing that in, that was wonderful. On the public works side, Buster Broussard has been with the city for absolutely forever.
Wonderful guy.
Yeah, water and sewer, and that's his thing. And I love Buster, but
Salt of the earth.
right. And then O'Neill Woods retired, and Seth Darbone became the head of streets and gas.
Okay.
And hardworking, great guy. Works hard for the city of Carencro every day. I just think he's wonderful. So yeah, I'm excited about that. The fire chief is David Mouton, and actually, so Don Chauvin was a city manager before me, and both he and I ran for mayor. I don't say we ran against each other. We just both ran for the office.
Right.
But anyway, after the election, I asked him, I said, what's the thing you think I'm going to forget the most? What do you think I'm going to miss? And he said, the fire rating. And I said, oh, I'm glad you brought that up. I said, well, who you think would be the best person to do that?
Yeah.
And he said, David Mouton. He's the fire chief. He would do a great job. I said, you think he'd work with me? And he said, I don't see why not. You should ask him.
Ask him.
So I asked for his phone number and I visited with him, and it has been the most wonderful relationship. I absolutely adore him. He does a great job. The fire department is just a very well run operation in the city of Carencro, very professional. Fire rating went well. He's very good at what he does, and uh, it's great.
Did you just cut the ribbon on a police station?
Oh yeah, we have a beautiful new police station. David Anderson is on the police side.
Mhm.
The police chief is elected.
Okay.
So the people choose their
The
police
people
chief.
choose the police
And they
chief.
make
Okay.
a good choice. They make
Okay.
a good choice. I
Good,
love
good.
David. And so he is good to work with every day. I
Excellent.
don't have to ever worry about there being a scandal. Sometimes he has to worry about crazy Charlotte, but I don't have to worry about him.
Which is a beautiful thing. It's a
Yeah,
beautiful.
sometimes I'm sure he's like, oh my God, that one was crazy. But that's okay. That's okay. It's a good give and take.
So you would say the decision that you made to put these different people in these positions, that has been this decision that has paid the dividend.
Right. Brian Bro oversees with the city of Carencro our public works department. He's the director of operations. He does a great job. We took over the parks, putting those people in place. It's taken us a little while to get to the group we have now, and I mean they're amazing people.
Yep.
We have Troy and Mark and Michelle and Derek, and then of course Mike Woodall's been with the sports complex for years and runs a really good operation, is now starting a recreation program. So we have a lot of things moving along on the park side too. So it's good.
I love how ingrained you are with, or how enamored you are with your people.
Oh, I think they're wonderful. I think they're great.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm just like, yo, let me know what y'all think. I get excited because I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not creative. That's not what I do.
I think understanding your own strengths and weaknesses,
Right,
and then
right.
appreciating other people's strengths.
who have those strengths, and then it gives me something to feed off of. Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. A symbiosis.
Yes.
So speaking of people, your children, Derek, Anna, Camille, and Eva, are clearly a central part of your world.
Yes.
How has motherhood influenced your approach to leadership, and how does your family support you through some of the emotional weight that comes with this role?
So, my kids are great. Derek is 35. He's in the pipeline business. He's a quality control. I don't really understand everything he does. Anna Camille just graduated from Seton Hall. She's got a job, and she's going to stay in New Jersey for a while. And my youngest, Eva, works in the family business, so she's at the racetrack every day. So my kids are wonderful and thriving, and you know, I but they're gonna figure it out however they think they need to do things, and so and I want them to do it their way, that's a good thing. I have a brother and a sister who are very supportive, but also very critical sometimes. We do argue a lot, and but we do talk a lot, and um we all have different perspectives in life, and so it's good. And then my Nana Jane is still living. My dad passed away in November. And so my Nana Jane's always right there, she came with us to New Jersey and New York, and she's in her 80s and she walked faster than me, she's in great shape. But my nanny is kind of a rock that we all lean on, we love her.
Every family has a rock.
Well, she's it. So great people, have great people working in my family business. My stepmother helps there. And so it's good. It's good. It's good.
Solid family.
Yeah. Solid family.
Okay, moving on to part 3, talking
Yeah.
about legacy.
Okay.
What remains? Okay, zooming out. For someone listening in another town or another state, what's one lesson you've learned about leading through growth that you think applies anywhere?
What really matters is listening to the people. It doesn't matter what you want. It's not your vision. It's the people's vision. And so you have to take into account what people think in general. And, I try to listen a lot. I try to listen a lot.
Okay.
That's good.
What do they say? You have 2 ears and one
One
mouth
mouth,
for a reason.
and I run my mouth, but I try hard. I try hard. But you know, I'm always excited when I see people um in the community, you know, shopping at a grocery store or whatever, and you know, they say, "Oh, you know, everything's great except this one little thing." That's that one little thing. I really like that they feel like they can tell me that, and I want to know
Mhm.
that, you know. I want to know.
Yeah. You wanna fix it.
I want to fix it.
You wanna make it right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, what do you hope Carencro 2.0 becomes, not just as a plan, but as a living framework for thoughtful development, long-term sustainability, and meaningful community progress?
So what I'm really hoping is that our fast growth, we can have our infrastructure and our amenities grow with it at pace. So we're doing some catching up, but at a certain point, I'm hoping that we can keep that growth going at pace. And we're still in the catch-up phase now. But
Okay.
that's what I hope it comes to,
Okay. At pace.
at pace. So as the community grows, that infrastructure grows with it.
Okay. I hear some of that complaint from just, I guess, different communities. They say, oh, these developers, they put this big neighborhood and they moved in all these people in, and now the road is too much traffic, or they've got the construction vehicles coming in and wrecking our road and this and that. There's a lot of growing pains
There is a
that
lot of
happen.
growing pains. But when we all send our money to the federal government, and then to the state government, and then it comes back, when you live in a big town, you get a certain allocation of funding, maybe not with as many strings. But when you're in a small community, that money comes back with strings, but it also requires that progress has already happened, that growth has happened, because that's the validation of why you need, but there's a lag in there.
Okay.
And so I don't think people understand the way the framework
I think you're right.
of the taxation, and, you know, and I don't think people also understand that certain taxes pay for certain things.
Right.
So there are property taxes in Lafayette Parish. The vast majority of that money goes to the sheriff's office and goes to the school board. So that money isn't coming. So the fact that you paid $1,700 or $2,200 in property taxes doesn't mean that the city of Carencro got it.
Right.
We maybe got $18, but we didn't get that.
The full.
You know, we didn't get all of it. Sales taxes is what drives most of the revenue for the city of Carencro. Sales taxes, and we have 3 1-cent sales taxes in the city of Carencro, plus a TIF district on I-49.
Okay.
And so in some places it's 4%, in some places it's 3%.
Okay.
And that's the money we have to use to do the projects and stuff in Carencro. That's what we have to use to pay our policemen, our firemen, our city employees. And then we have two what are called enterprise funds that generate money, and the park is one, and then the other one is our utilities.
Okay.
And so a lot of what's coming in and what people are going to see, what they saw a few years ago, and no choice but for it to happen again, is utility costs are going to go up. And not because I want them to go up, but because we're taking some state money, and it's called water sector. When we take that water sector money in, it requires us to do a rate study, which means that we have to make money in that utility fund.
Okay.
And so we have to charge enough for that, but also we have to charge a development fee, which is brand new in the city of Carencro.
Okay.
So for every new house or new business coming in, they're going to pay a pro rata share of the investment the city already has in water or sewer.
Okay.
So now new homes coming into Carencro pay $1,700 a piece for water. We just took $7.5 million in water sector for our sewer plant. So that's going to come online in the next few years. And it's just your tax money comes back to us, but with strings.
Okay.
So there's a lot of,
It's like dedicated already.
it's if we want your tax money to fix your infrastructure, it comes with requirements, and that's what it is. It comes with strings.
That
So
sounds
I hope
complex, Charlotte.
it gets real complex real fast. But, I think part of our problem is that as elected officials, we need to make sure that the people understand that this is why your water bill went up $12. This is water is free, but transportation and treatment are the things you're paying for.
Right.
So when they're moving water from the plant to your house, and then what they do with the plant, that's what you're paying for. Water's free, but everything else costs. And every community is going to have a different cost because it's where you pumping it out of and what treatments you have to do to it, and then where you have to transport it.
But you're right, on the public side, people just see on their bill, and then they can make up all kind of stories about why they might think that happened, but it's incumbent upon the elected officials then to communicate and
Explain ourselves. I was at an event last week for a realtors event, and a developer was there and asked that question. And he asked me, y'all need to oppose these development fees. And I'm raised my hand. I'm like, have you ever heard of the water sector? And he said, no. I said, oh, let me explain it
Let
to
me
you.
explain it.
You pay your tax money, but when it comes back to small communities, it has those strings. And I don't have a choice.
Right.
I have to do this. It is a requirement. And I need that money because that's the only money I can get to fix this infrastructure that needs to be repaired, that's required to be repaired. Because
Right.
all that we're doing in the city of Carencro are fixing what's considered a requirement by some agency who says that, we're at capacity for sewer. People don't want brown water. It costs money to fix all those problems.
Correct. And it takes time.
Takes time, it takes money, and it's not cheap.
So looking ahead, when your time in office eventually winds down, when there's no more challenges left to be met, how do you hope to be remembered, not only by the people of Carencro, but by those who worked alongside you, witnessing the decisions, determination, the day-to-day grit that's required of you to lead?
I hope they know that I love Carencro. I hope that that's what comes out of it, is that people know that I love my town, I love my community, I love this city, and that I may have had a difference of opinion with you, but you recognize that it didn't come from a bad place. It came from, I was just trying to make it better. I hope that that's what people remember.
That your heart is here in the city. So our final question, a closing question that we asked all of our guests on our corporate podcast, Fueled. What fuels you in life, in leadership, career, work, family? What fuels you?
I think just wanting my community to be a great place so my kids and my grandkids all would live here, and I get to mind everybody's business and plan baby showers, and that's what I want to do. But my kids are at that age where they're kind of still flying, so they haven't really landed, and I'm hoping when they choose to land, they land here, and I get to fuss with some little grandkids. But my brother has a grandbaby, and my brother and I live next door to each other. And Austin is like the reason that the world breathes. I just love this little girl.
Of course.
And she's 4 now, and when she was 2, at Christmas time, my nephew and I were standing there, and I don't know what she did or what she said, and I'm like, ooh, she's like us.
Oh, she came
So,
out with something.
Yeah, she's one of us. So, we just
a little
love her.
moment to pat yourself on the
Yeah,
back
we're
and
just
celebrate.
really excited about
Apples not falling far.
No, the apples don't fall far. And so, yeah, I'm just hoping that that's kind of how it,
How it shakes out.
Mhm, mhm.
Well, what a pleasure. Charlotte, thank you again for being on our podcast.
Thank you for doing this. And in the Carencro Welcome Center, beautiful.
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
So, it might be fun if we could have a little tour.
Yeah. Oh, we could do that. So this is, Cajun and Creole people. This is how they insulated their homes. And the bousillage is really, really cool. This is my favorite part. But this shows the original house. It was inside of another house, and it was the oldest structure in the city of Carencro. And so it was preserved, moved to this location. I'm excited about it. It's pretty. The city of Carencro purchased some land that was adjacent to where the water tower is, downtown Carencro, and there was some old potato kilns there because the railroad used to pass there, and that's where the potato kilns were. And so when I first got in office, I was like, we got all this stuff in there, these antiques that are in this. So what are we going to do with them? And I'm like, well, let's call Antiques Roadshow. And then they're like, oh, no, they got rules for that. Can't do that. I'm like, oh, okay, let's figure this out. So we actually got the people to come in from LMA and explain us how to do, what were the rules. So we learned the rules, and then we actually had our own auction. I have a horse sale company, so I've done this before. So we did a bid deal where people could come in. They came to the community center, and we had all these antiques and then just other things the city needed to be released from. And so we went through auction for all of those things. And this was one of the items that we kept. It was actually one of the original wagon wheels. In front of the police department, if you go there, the new police department, there's 2 plows and an old wagon, which is actually a wagon that they use to move the potatoes around.
Wow.
It's real antiques. It's from
Potatoes get heavy.
Yeah, potatoes are heavy, but it was in the old potato kiln. So it's really kind of cool. Yeah, so all this stuff is kind of, they're not only historically accurate, but they're historically accurate and from Carencro. Cajun and Creole people were very inventive and very resourceful. So I don't know if you've ever heard the story of Evangeline. Gabriel was really somebody named Louis Arsenault, and so he settled in Carencro, and so a lot of people in Carencro descend from his family. So it's kind of a thing, and so he was one of the settlers of Carencro. How Carencro got its name? Actually, in the old days, this was not Carencro. This was St. Pierre. And Carencro was a little further off. And then eventually Carencro was the name of the railroad station. And so the community got that name from the railroad station. But my grandfather never said he was going to Carencro. He always said he was going to St. Pierre.
So did you see this project across the finish line? This one here?
Yeah, yes, but COVID hit.
COVID
and
hit.
so there were a lot of delays and issues with, COVID. So we came in and there were some things that needed to be completed. So we came in, we got those completed. We brought in the group that did the curation of what's up on the walls and stuff like that. We did that.
Nice.
And the signage and all of that. So we did all of that.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
An interesting place.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's a great place. It's a great building.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Thank you.